Hey everybody, Dennis Young here. Another special guest, Don Cento, down in Austin, Texas. And I've been there a few times and love it down there. And Don, I didn't know about your big catalog of music and your producing. And boy, I'm glad to have you on.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for taking the time to investigate a little bit. So
Yeah,
looking forward to chatting here.
I mean, you just can't find all types of music, but finding you, I say, wow, big catalog of things. So, what got you into this kind of? I mean, the music's kind of Americana and Texas driven type of music. What got you into this?
If the jazz guitar trio thing specifically, I've been playing guitar for a long, long time, since 1987 probably. And studying jazz, started studying jazz, got way into jazz in the right in high school, so probably 89, 90, and then studied that in college in Texas, in Denton,
Oh,
Texas.
okay.
So yeah, I was born in Michigan, grew up in Missouri, and got to Texas as quickly as I could. So it was just sort of being in Texas and being in Denton and living in Dallas and just kind of being exposed to everything that's going on down here
Hmm.
because there's a lot of stuff going on down here and playing all kinds of music, playing with all kinds of different players. It all just kind of comes together in a stew, I suppose.
There's a big scene down there, right? A lot of music there to tap into, right?
There really is. Yeah, yeah. And each city has its own big scene, and there's a lot of big cities because Texas is so big.
Right.
We've got Denton. Denton has University of North Texas, where I went, which has the great music school. So you've got a ton of great classical performers, a great ton of great jazz performers, and just because it's a giant college, you've got just college people starting bands or starting solo careers as well. So
Right.
there's just a very vibrant, very fertile music scene in Denton, in and of itself. So many great bands have come out of there. I guess most recently you've got like Snarky Puppy, and then before them, Midlake was a big Denton band, and I'm thinking of Ten Hands. Paul Slavens is another great musician. Little Jack Melody is another great musician. So that all kind of feeds into the Dallas music scene because it's 30 minutes north. A lot of people
Yeah.
will just
Okay.
migrate down to Dallas, which had an amazing music scene and always has, going back to the 20s, going back to Blind Lemon Jefferson, the 1920s.
Hmm.
It's weird to have to say that now.
Yeah.
And then that all continues down I-35, much like the Mississippi River. It continues down I-35 to Austin, where you've got just a legendary music scene that's kind of been doing its own thing for decades and decades. And I don't know when to say the Austin music thing really started happening. A lot of people might say the outlaw thing happened with Willie Nelson whenever he set up shop here in the 60s or 70s, but I'm not that much of a historian. But I do know that there's just a ton of variety here as well. A lot of the blues, a lot of
Hmm.
country music, obviously, a great jazz scene. There's always been an amazing rock and roll scene here, an indie scene, a punk scene. So, and just the more people you meet, the more little scenes you get involved
Isn't that
in.
something?
It's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, it's incredible. The longer you stay in it, the more you just start seeing the same people over and over. And it's a really fun way to live your life.
Now let's talk
So.
about your early group there, Shibboleth. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah, yeah, it's close. It's pronounced Shibboleth.
That's an unusual name. How did you come up with that?
It is an unusual name. And it was just, we were in a rehearsal. So it was started by my very good friend, Richard Martin, and my other very good friend, James Driscoll. They had met playing jazz gigs in Dallas, just, restaurant gigs or whatever. And Rich is probably, he's a few years older than James and I. And he told James on a gig, he said, I've been writing some songs. Would you like to record them? Because James had a little studio set up. So they started recording these songs. And I was playing in another band with James at the time. And they kind of got partway down the road. And Rich said, well, feels like it needs a guitar player. And James says, I know just the guy. So I showed up and we just started making music right away, just really hit it off. I'd already hit it off
Nice.
with James years ago, but Rich is just sort of, I call him the other half of my musical coin. We can talk about him. I can talk about him for days.
Hmm.
But we just started playing and we got some gigs. And so obviously we needed a name. And James had heard the word shibboleth in conversation. And he said, "What about the word shibboleth?" And so we looked it up, thought it had kind of a cool meaning. I don't know if you've looked up the meaning of the word.
No, no, no. Wait, I'm gonna leave it to you.
Okay, see, I haven't told this story in a while, but the
Okay.
it's an old biblical word, I think from the Old Testament. And we're not in a religious band by any
Yeah.
stretch. It's a weird instrumental band, but it is sort of like a secret handshake or a shared secret. Uh, like, I think it goes back to Judge Jephthah
Hmm.
in I don't remember which book it was in. Maybe let's call it
Right.
the Romans. I'm probably going to this is probably wrong, but one group was warring with another group. I think somebody was warring with the Ephemerites, and one of the groups in their speech they were able to use the sh sound. Shh. The other
Okay.
group didn't have that in their language. And so the way you could tell a spy or a turncoat or whatever was you would have them pronounce the word shibboleth. And if they couldn't
Okay.
say shibboleth, if they said sibboleth, you would know this was not one of your comrades. And so it was off with their heads. And so apparently Judge Jephthah used that test, the shibboleth test, to kill 40,000 people in one day, as the legend goes. So it's a bit of a grim backstory, but it's a really cool word, and you see it crop up at least once a year. It'll show up on somebody's word of the day calendar, and they'll forward me an email.
Oh, okay. That's
It's
great.
funny. And there was a very famous episode of the TV show The West Wing that was called
Right.
Shibboleth. So it's just a word that shows up every once in a while. It's
Now,
a neat
what was your idea for a Christmas record? That's very interesting.
for the Shibboleth thing.
Yes.
That was the record label that we put our second album out. That was their Christmas compilation. And I think
Oh,
that was
okay.
one of Richard's songs that was sort of meant to evoke like the old, mid 1800s Victorian Christmas songs that are sort of weird lyrics about weird spirits or gumdrops or things like that. So he just invented this Christmas character, and we concocted that one afternoon in James's apartment, as I recall.
Now, did you guys do a lot of shows back then? Did you play
Yeah.
out of the area?
Yeah, Shibboleth played a lot. We had, I guess we started in around 1999, and then we started playing. We played regularly at a pizza place called the Elbow Room in Dallas, and all over the little bars in Dallas and rock clubs, and the Barley House, which was a big place. And then we played a couple of big things that happened for us. We played with there's a group from Dallas called the Old 97s that have been around forever, venerable alt country group, and we got to open some shows for them down here in Austin
Oh, okay.
at the La Zona Rosa, as I recall. Um, and so that was fun for us. And then we got to play a lot with an R&B singer, an older guy named Bobby Patterson, who had been around in the '60s, and he was on the High record label, had a number of regional hits, and produced a bunch
Okay.
of
Oh,
stuff kind of in the vein of just '60s Southern soul R&B, like Stax Motown kind of stuff. So we did a bunch of gigs with him, and that was a real treat because we got to learn his catalog and play with him, and we got to augment our sound with a horn section, do a lot of cool things with him. Played a couple of big shows, so we played a lot in Dallas. Like I said, the Elbow Room. We played at a place called Lee Harvey's regularly. And we had a great thing for a while, for about a year. And this was really sort of formative. And I think this happens. Any band that has
mm.
this is lucky to have a regular gig, like a weekly gig.
Yeah, I'm sure.
A residency is so great for just developing a sound, developing your chops, getting a whole thing going. And so we did that at this place called The Quarter on Monday nights, which was super fun. We did it without a drummer. We just had an old Ace-Tone drum machine, which we
I
just kind
love
of,
it. Yeah, that's
yeah, like those things that used to be on organs, kind of with
right,
the feet.
right.
Yeah. So we did that for about a year, and then Monday Night Football cycled back up, and we lost our gig.
Oh,
It happens. But that was great. So we played a lot and we kind of slowed down. I moved to Austin in 2012. So we kind of slowed down after that, but we still play about once or twice a year.
That's great. You're still friends with the
Yep.
bandmates, and you have that chemistry you always have.
Well,
You
yeah,
know?
coincidentally, Richard, the keyboard player, just moved to Austin a few months ago. So he and I've been playing together once or twice a week. We did a little duo gig a couple weeks ago, and we're going to book another one where we just kind of we're not really playing any Shibboleth songs. We're playing a lot of the songs that influenced us a little bit. So a lot of the great Italian film composers like
Okay.
Morricone and
Oh, that's
Alessandro.
unique.
Yeah, it's
How
great.
about
And
that?
yeah, it's some surf music, like some stuff from the Shadows and just Bob James. I don't know if you know him, the guy that wrote
Oh
the theme
yeah,
song
of
from
course.
Taxi. Just weird songs like that. So just piano and guitar, just a duo. So that's been a lot of fun.
Well, I got to interview Ben Vaughn, who's a surf guitar player.
Yeah.
And, nobody was interested in surf guitar until that 70s show came up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he did a
Or,
lot for the format, didn't he?
yeah, yeah, he did.
He did. Boy, I've been listening to his podcast, the Straight from the Heart.
Isn't
Did
that
you
great?
from the hat? Yeah. You talked about that?
Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah.
talked about it. He's a great guest.
Yeah, man. God, that guy has so many stories and crossed paths with so many fantastic people, you
The
know.
Rambler 65 doing record in his car. Did
Yeah,
you
I
ever hear
don't
that
think I've heard
story?
that, but that sounds fascinating.
He actually set up a tape machine in the car with the speakers, and he did the whole record in his car.
Was he parked somewhere or was he
I
driving
don't
down
know where he was parked, man.
the
That's a good question.
That's
That
fun.
I'd love should have asked him where he
Yeah, that
parked.
you can do that on part two, probably.
I think so.
Yeah.
So you've had a great career with recording. When did you start the recording studio?
Well, the studio, I guess we kind of started up around 2017. I mean, I started recording in seventh grade. I got a four track and was recording my band in our basement, my parents' basement back home.
All right.
So that was, I guess I've always been recording. I started doing that maybe a year or two after I got a guitar.
Oh, okay.
And then started doing that, picked that back up, fits and starts, and then around 2000 with Shibboleth, got back into recording, doing some home recording, and we made our first record in James's garage,
Okay.
and then that got me. I got the bug again, so that was around 2000, and I got a little recording set up, and I we did the drums for the second Shibboleth record in a proper studio with our friend Stuart Sykes, and then we overdubbed keyboards and guitars and
Mm.
stuff at my house, my apartment, and in James's garage. And gradually since then, just sort of adding on, buying little pieces of gear, working out of a spare bedroom, and then was working out of a spare bedroom here at our house, my wife and I have here in Austin, and kind of just started to outgrow that. So moved that operation into a little house and worked there from about late 2017 until just about a month ago. We moved out of that house, and so I'm kind of in between studios now.
Now, is everything recorded digitally, or do you have analog tape that you recorded a lot?
I record all digitally. I've got a couple of tape machines that I need to get repaired, and I'm hesitant to go down that road. I like the romance of it, and I started out on a four track on a tape machine, but I really love the digital format. A lot of the artists that I work with, there's in mixing especially, there's an enormous amount of revisions.
Yeah, I wanted to
I
ask
think,
you about that after this.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think people are just accustomed to that these days. And so digitally just gives me the opportunity to go back and forth, you know. Open up a session on a Monday, make a small tweak, send them a revision. They come back Tuesday with another revision. So instead of just having to pull it all up on an analog mixing desk, it's just a lot easier. That said, I do really believe in the quality of, or in the just the sonic superiority of really good analog preamps. So that
Mm,
was when I put my little place together. I got some good analog preamps. So I've got a good analog front end going into some good digital conversion, and then everything else happens in the box. Good microphones, good preamps.
that's important.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, do
Yeah.
you do live recordings there, like with a band, or That's always seems to be work out really well. The
It's
energy, right?
it's great. It is super great. It's fun. It's a lot of work. It was just me, getting four, and everybody's. I'm not the first person to deal with this, obviously, but it can be. I had to learn a set of skills that I didn't anticipate when I started doing that. When I,
Hmm.
started doing it more professionally, recording four or five people simultaneously,
Yeah, I can
making sure
imagine.
everybody's headphones are good, making sure
Right.
everybody's got they're comfortable, they can see each other. And in a house, it's always little weird lines of sight. And then you're playing audio engineer, you're playing a producer, and then you're also playing a bit of a psychologist,
Pacifier, right?
pacifier. Yeah, you're playing all those roles at the
Right.
same
You're
time.
right. You got a lot of people who want their sound and want this and want that. Turn my guitar up, you know.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, and it's all got to happen like that, and I did not see that coming, and so I got some good advice from my friend Stuart, the engineer that I work with a ton, who's is an amazing engineer, and I encourage your viewers to look up Stuart Sykes and
okay.
his
I'll look him
incredible
up.
dis
Okay.
yeah, Sikes,
Okay.
incredible discography, incredible. I mean, he's
All
worked
right.
with
Look him up.
the White Stripes and Loretta Lynn and the Walkmen
Oh,
and Cat
okay.
Power. He's just the best there is. But he told me, I said, "Hey, I've got this full band session." Up until then I'd done overdubs. And I said, "I got a full band session. Do you have any advice?" And he kind of looked up and he said, "Never let him see a sweat."
Ah,
And that's not the first time I had ever gotten that advice from a mentor or someone that was sort of I was looking up to. So that was interesting to get that lesson a second time. And so that was just sort of, no matter what's going on, no matter how much your hair is on fire,
yeah.
never let them see a sweat. And hopefully I was able to live by that. I'm sure it's sometimes my get a little frazzled, but that
Now,
was the lesson.
before we talk about your current music, I'd like to talk about some of the artists I listen to. Matt
Yeah.
Cavell.
Matt
I mean,
Kibble. Yeah.
really, Cavell, great sound.
He's fantastic. Yeah, I met Matt just a few years ago. He moved here maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and he just moved back to Los Angeles, unfortunately, so we miss him. But it was just a random connection. Another artist I work with named Pink Nasty. She was working at a clothes store, and he was shopping there, and they got to talking. And he asked her if she knew of a recording studio. She mentioned me. I met with him and he came in. I think I've done 3 or 4 records with him. There's one that we're actually mastering right now, so I don't know when that's going to come out. But the first record, he came in with a lot of it already recorded and we finished it up and it was just great. His songs are fantastic. And then he sent that off to get mixed. And then he came back about a year later and he had 16 or 17 songs
Oh my
that he
gosh.
had that were older. I think he had
Right.
bass and drums done, and he just sort of wanted to finish this big long album that was sort of a autobiography, I guess. And is really ambitious, and he's a very, very thoughtful guy, very, super smart and very particular about what he wants and very patient with it.
So you like that. That's what you want, somebody like that.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
cares
it's
about their music.
very much so. It's really cool, and it's a real challenge to kind of honor that because you don't get to really rely on your old tricks because he constantly challenged me to step outside my comfort zone or whatever I would my first instinct, maybe check that at the door and kind of try and understand, get inside his head and get after what he was going after. So it's always a really cool lesson.
There's so many instruments, musicians on that record. How do you mix those kind of records? That must be difficult.
Oh, that one, yeah, again, revisions, revisions, revisions. Yeah, that was very difficult. And that's another thing he's great at. Like there's a number of guys that I've worked with and gals that are great at identifying talent.
See, that's
Um,
good. That's what makes it
yeah,
happen.
it's really cool. And he would just bring in these people that I had never heard of, and he would say, "I think they're going to be good on this song." and it would just kind of turn them loose. And so I would have to capture it and offer an opinion if it was needed. But you're right, it's a challenge to mix all that kind of stuff when
It
there's
must be.
16 tracks of loud
Yeah.
guitars and
Oh
you know
my
you want
gosh.
you want everything to speak, so it's just kind of it's the a good mix I think starts with the arrangement, and that can either happen together with a band on the floor, as they say, or over time as you sort of build it up layer by layer. So there's that, and then there's the sort of let's throw it all at the wall, see what sticks, and kind of figure it out in the mixing phase.
Mm,
And so this record, the last Kibble
yeah.
record, Escape from LA, was sort of like that. There was just a lot of stuff, and a lot of the parts meant something, and so we had to find a way to make them work. And so you kind of ride the automation
That's all
thing.
you can do, right? Well,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
looked at the list. I'm saying, oh my gosh, this is must have been tough to mix.
Yeah, cast of thousands.
Yep.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was
Now
really
I
cool.
love this guy, Jerry David. How you pronounce his last name?
DeCicca.
Very John Prine
Yeah.
type of old country. I love the sound of his records.
He's great. Jerry is one of my best friends, and I've made a ton of records with him.
Mm.
He is another guy that came to me through Stuart Sykes. Um, Stuart was mixing. Jerry was in a band called the Black Swans, based out of Ohio. And they did pretty well. And then after that band went their separate ways, Jerry made his first solo record,
Mm.
and Stuart mixed it. A mutual friend of theirs in Nashville recommended Stuart to mix it, so Stuart mixed it. And I guess around that time, Jerry moved to Texas to be. He doesn't live in Austin, he lives just north of San Antonio. And I think he asked, if memory serves, I think he asked Stuart if he knew any musicians or a guitar player, and Stuart recommended me to play some shows with him. So
Okay.
we started playing some shows, hit it off. And then Jerry is always up to something. He's a
That's good.
yeah, he's always writing. He's a very, what's the word? Not verbose. He writes a lot of songs. He's a really great producer. So he's always producing
Oh,
a
yes.
lot of,
Okay.
yeah. He tends to produce, and he really has an affinity for older artists,
Mm.
guys in their 70s.
Okay.
And through that, so I've made a number of Jerry's records with him, but I've also contributed to a number of artists with him, like Will Bealey or
Oh, yeah. I like his stuff too.
yeah, Jerry produced that, and I play guitar on that. But yeah, and Jerry's very kind of I want to say all over the map, but he's got big ears and he's got a big appetite for types of music, and he doesn't mind exploring that in his own music. So, with the first records we did, like you said, were kind of like oddball country kind of things. But then we did two records ago. Like I said, he makes a lot of records. We did a record called New Shadows, which was all drum machines and synthesizers,
Mm.
which I co-produced with him. And so I programmed the drum machines and played synthesizer on that. And
That's great. Yeah. He's not afraid to make changes and do something different.
no, and he's another guy that's just got a great ear for talent, and he's not afraid to reach out to his heroes and ask them to contribute. So on that record, he got David Hidalgo from Los Lobos and Steve Berlin from Los Lobos to
Yeah.
contribute to it.
Right.
So it's amazing to get material from those guys to work with.
If you're getting talent like that, you know it's going to be a good record. Come on.
It is, yeah. I'm very proud of that record.
Tell him I really love the records.
I will, I
I
will,
would
I
love to
will.
speak to him sometime. I don't know how
I,
busy he is.
no, I'm sure he'd be happy to chat. He's a great talker. He will tell you some amazing stories. He's just an encyclopedia of, music history, records. He's a big record collector, and he's one of those guys that has a, he'll memorize liner notes and I think those of us probably our age, grew
Yeah,
up reading liner notes and making
that's
those
true. You're
connections.
right.
that was my favorite thing. But Jerry is just he's just great at it, and he will search out those people and can tell you about every record they played on. It's fascinating.
I know it really caught my eye when I saw your catalog of work you did. His stuff is really good. And this Sarah Jaffe I really liked. She's got this iris dement. You know her?
Yeah,
That kind of
I Iris DeMent's great. Yeah, she.
almost
I might
sounds a little like in that direction with her voice. It's so unique.
Sarah's amazing. So Sarah is she lives in Brooklyn, I think now. I haven't talked to her in a minute, but she showed up in Dallas as a very young artist. I think she kind of started doing, I might have this wrong, so if Sarah
It's
Jaffe
all right.
fans can correct me, but she started doing open mics when she was 17 or 18, right? And just caught on real fast because she has a fantastic voice and a
Mm,
very distinctive, she just captivating performer. She can
oh,
deliver her songs.
mm.
That's a real skill.
It is.
And she garnered a huge following very quickly, made a number of great records very quickly. Toured with Midlake, uh, bunch of bunch of artists. And I played in her band for a couple of years, toured
Oh, you
with her.
did? Okay.
Yeah, and I made one record with her, A Bad Baby, which I think was a great record, but of course I'd be inclined to say that. But she had a minor hit, I think, with a song called Clementine early on in her career, and that still, I think, resonates with people, 10 or 15 years down the road. Younger people are still finding that song. It's very evocative. And she now, to my knowledge, is in New York producing. And
Oh, she is. Okay.
yeah, I think I saw her on the Tonight Show playing bass for an
Oh,
artist. So she's still out there doing it. Like she's enormously talented.
couple more. Gold Eye. Is that they sound a little like? Did you do something with them? Gold Eye?
Gold Eye. Let's see
Is
how,
that?
how
I think
do
they would sound like Smashing Pumpkins a little bit, like a rock type of sound.
I'm
Goes
gonna
way
look.
back.
I gotta look at my discography
That
here.
goes way back. Maybe I might be wrong, but they were kind of interesting. They had that 90s kind of
Is it
rock sound.
Broken? Is it
Broken
Broken Gold?
Broken
Broken
Gold,
Gold?
sorry.
Yeah,
Boy,
they're a
I'm
great
losing
band. They're
Broken
from here
Gold.
in
That's
Austin.
what it is.
Yep, that's all right. They're great. They're just a great rock band, and
They
not just
were.
a, yeah. And again, my friend Stuart Sykes asked me to play keyboards on that, so I contributed a little synthesizer on a couple of songs. They are an offshoot. The leader of that band is in another great Denton punk band called the Riverboat Gamblers.
I've
So
heard of them
yeah, they're a great band. Awesome band.
because I
Have been for
heard that. I
decades.
said there's like offshoot like Smashing Pumpkins and
Yeah,
that kind of alternative rock
yeah, just
sound.
great high energy
Yep.
guitar rock. Yeah.
So what else would you recommend for people out there to listen to from some of the artists you've worked with that maybe
Well, yeah.
somebody we haven't heard or knew?
Let's see. Well, there's a few. I mean, there just recently, I guess, one of the artists that I've worked with a lot that has done really well, and it's a guy that I've known since fourth grade. It's my friend Marty Garner. His band Vitskar Sudin.
Okay.
Um, we've made three records together, and he lives in LA. He's in the film industry, and all the guys
Hmm.
in that band are in the film industry. And it's just something
Interesting.
they just started getting together and jamming as a way to blow off steam, and they would just record their jam sessions. And then when Marty was on, he works in the graphics department of movies. And so when he was on location, away from home, he would just in the evenings, pardon me, start editing those songs together or screwing around with those songs. And when they got enough material together that he had edited from their jams, I mixed the first record. Um, and a lot of that was electronic drums that I had to do a lot of work with. And then that record, and it's sort of, I don't know what you would call that music. It's
It's kind
nothing
of
that I,
dark. Like
it's
I listened
very
to a little
dark.
bit
Yeah, it's like
dark
it's
stuff.
psychedelic, it's doom, but it's
Yep.
not doom. It's not sludgy, but it is sludgy. But it ended up connecting with fans of that sort of thing, and it did really well on like Bandcamp and
Hmm.
in that sort of world of dark music. And so they did, I don't know if it was their second or third record. They got picked up by a label called Ripple Music that does a lot of heavy music. And so we've done a couple more, I did a couple more records with them. So they're a great listen. Um, a band called Specific Thing is really good. A record I really enjoyed working on was a guy named Eamon Fogarty. He
Okay.
was a great guitar player.
Hmm.
Really interesting songwriter, really interesting voice. He lived here for a while. He's in New York now, still playing. So that's a really good record. I'm proud of that one. I think it sounds really good. Um, just a lot of, I mean,
Such
Anna
a full
Brehaus.
catalog of great stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I've been lucky. I've been lucky.
I love some of the old country sounds though, some of those the raw guitar vocal stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. I guess Johnny Burke is a country guy I did a record with. I had played with him off and on when I first moved to Austin, and then he made this record based on some life experiences he had. We got a lot of great guys, and that was all done live in the studio in the house, just kind of one or two takes a song. I don't think we did any overdubs. Oh, we did. We had Alejandro Escovedo came in and sang on that. So that was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've been really lucky. I've been super lucky working with a lot of great clients
Yeah.
and just sort of word of mouth my way through this whole
And
thing.
people talk about AI and a takeover of that, but Don, I mean, I'm saying differently. You're doing such some really good artists who are actually playing music, playing live, and
Yeah,
recording great stuff.
I think you're right. I thank you for saying that.
It's
And
true.
yeah, AI is AI. It's not going anywhere. But I don't know that I've ever consumed any AI music, but I certainly believe in the power of human beings making music, and I
Right.
think I listened to this morning, I was running and I was listening to a podcast of an interview with the German film director. Why am I blanking on his name? Did Fitzcarraldo?
Uh, uh, that's
Oh,
all right.
yeah, anyway, he talks like this. Everyone would know his name. I can't believe I'm blanking on this right now. But anyway, he was talking about AI and he was talking about a movie he had just seen that was scripted by AI and that all the imagery was produced by AI. And he said it was flat, it lacked any human spark. And
Yeah.
because it was all mimicry, because that's all AI is just reconstituting, it's like spam. It's just reconstituting other parts. And so it'll come out sounding like a country song or it'll come out sounding like a rock and roll song, but it's going to lack just that spark.
Yeah.
And I think
I
the
agree.
the joy of doing this isn't entering prompts into a computer. The joy is sitting around with Matt Kibble and some guy I don't know and trying to figure out how to make something work.
Yeah.
Or
How to work with 16 musicians on a record, right?
yeah, and it's not even the making the music, it's the joking around, it's the
Yeah.
hang, it's what happens before and after the sessions. It's just friendships and just getting to know people and getting to know a side of a person that you wouldn't normally get to know
Yeah.
because in order to make music, you have to be a little vulnerable,
Yes, you
and
do.
open yourself up, and that can be very tricky.
Well, there's a part that wants to make music a product like everything else, and people go for that. But there's the real musicians and music lovers that know better.
Yeah, I think so, and
Uh,
I
you
think
know,
and I hope that isn't lost. It's hard. Every
I
generation
know.
sort of develops a taste for something different, and good for them. That's the way it should be. But I do think that you always hear stories of like there's always a 15-year-old kid that discovers Led Zeppelin. So I think as long as we have 15-year-old kids and as long
Yes,
as we
I
have Led
agree.
Zeppelin, or something like that, there's that visceral thing that's going to speak to a young person in a way that I don't think a manufactured, chill vibe playlist is going to speak to somebody. I
You're
hope.
right.
Yeah.
Now I haven't listened to too much Austin music, but one artist I do love down there is Slade Cleaves.
Yeah.
Broke
I don't
down,
I don't know Slade, but
but I've seen him play. He's really
yeah,
great.
I don't think I've ever seen him play, but I know the name and I know the reputation. He's a killer.
He's a killer. He's just got
Yeah.
great songs. They're kind of down, but
Yeah.
he's got a lot of stories.
Where and that's man, that's something I really admire, and I think it's just a sign of a life well lived or a life hard lived. But I was watching some of the episodes of your podcast prior to this, just sort of dropping the needle, as it were, and you've had some great guests with
Thank
legacy
you.
careers, and it's really cool, like some of the stories they were telling. Just
Oh,
a lot of the you've interviewed recently, a lot of people that were Emerson, Lake and Palmer groups.
oh, you have
A lot of the
Prague
prog
music.
musicians, yeah.
Yeah,
And those guys have been around, man. It's really
like
cool.
David Jackson from Von de Graaff Generator.
Yeah,
Playing the two saxophones, at
yeah,
the same time. But they had other stories too,
yeah.
besides just music, other parts of their life that, like, you heard of Captain Beefheart, right?
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
And John French, legendary interviews, stories of his life with just,
That's
it's been
amazing.
really,
And this is one of your episodes?
yes.
I will go back and look for
You
that.
you have to
I would
look for
love to.
part two of the John
Okay.
French interview. It's gripping.
I will check that out. Those it's like reading I just finished I guess everybody's life. I guess by comparison, I was thinking before this interview, like these guys have great stories. I hope my stories add
No,
up.
yours are great, Don.
Thank you. But I just finished reading do you know the jazz composer and piano player Carla Bley?
Oh yeah, of course.
I just found again, I love her. I've always loved her writing, but I just kind of went down a rabbit hole recently and got a little biography of hers. It's a really thin book, but talk about a fascinating story. She came from the West Coast at age 18, like took a Greyhound bus with a purse and just the clothes on her back to New York just because she wanted to hear Miles Davis. And so
Oh my
she
God.
was sleeping like on a bench in Grand Central and then going to I guess it was Birdland or whatever the big club was at the time, and then she got a job as a cigarette girl. This was in 1958.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, and
Wow.
then she met Paul Bley and he said start writing songs. So she started writing songs, and next thing you know, she's one of the greatest jazz composers that's ever lived. And just the fascinating business decisions that she made throughout her career. It's really inspiring the way she took control of her recordings.
Isn't that
Uh,
something?
yeah,
Well,
it
the other
gets
one I wanted to mention is Bill McCormick. He's written all these World War I books. He was like a bass player from those early 70s bands, prog bands, and he's written these 600-page World War I books about the Somme and all the battles there. I was like, holy smoke.
and but I've heard that name. Does he live here or where is he? Or is he
He's
one of
in
your
he's one of the podcasts. He's in Europe.
Okay. Okay.
He played with Phil Manzanera,
Oh, I love Phil Manzanero.
801 Live.
He's on that record?
Yeah,
That's an awesome record.
isn't it though? And he's
Yeah.
on that. And then he played with the early days with I believe with Wyatt, and all these
Robert
great Robert
Robert
Wyatt
Wyatt.
and all
Wow,
these
that's
great players. So it's just been I've been very lucky
yeah,
to
yeah.
have
Boy, you
these
just
people
I
to
mean, it's
talk.
cool to collect and save all these stories in one place. So it's
Well,
really
now I have the list on I'll send it to you of the my 20 favorite
Oh
interviews.
yeah.
So you
Okay.
may want to just check a little bit of that out.
For sure, for
But
sure.
I have to thank Howard here for making this happen.
Howard's awesome. Yeah, Howard's been great. I didn't know Howard. My friend Jerry put me in touch with Howard, and Howard has been, I haven't put out a record under my own name since before streaming. So this has been a whole education, and I've done records with bands, promoted records with bands, and so but doing it all myself has been a huge, again, didn't realize what I was getting into, but Howard has been super helpful in guiding me and giving me
Well,
great
he has
advice. So
given me names like yourself, Ben Vaughn,
yeah.
people that I've never, talked to or would not even know about.
Yeah, he's a class act. I love that guy.
Now, what about this before we go, Cento Trio? Is that still, you're still doing that?
Yeah, Cento Trio. That's the main thing that I'm working on right now. That's why
Okay.
Howard put you in touch with me.
Sure,
It's
let's hear about it.
it's a jazz guitar trio, which you might not anticipate given my discography, but that's what I studied growing up and was dedicated to that for a number of years. Left it for a while and entered the sort of indie rock and pop world and Americana world, and then kind of came back to it about 2 or 3 years ago. So this trio's sort of the the durable trio guitar format, but kind of looking at it through the lens of Americana and pop. So I'm trying to take those sort
Oh,
of
okay.
compositional lessons I learned and apply those to the songwriting. So the record that's coming out, we've got a record coming out June 19th.
Okay.
Um, there's 11 songs, nine of which I wrote. The bass player wrote one, and we have a cover of 7 Year Ache by Roseanne Cash. But I tried to, some of them kind of feel more like the classic 60s jazz trio, like a Wes Montgomery thing, and some of them maybe feel a little more informed by the Americana. There's some more straight eight stuff. I love the whole aspect of making records, so I wanted to put all my, not that I think it's gonna, I did it for no other reason than to amuse myself because I love LPs, I love the artwork, and so
Yes, of
I
course.
found a great artist to do the painting for the cover, and Stuart recorded it in a great studio, so it sounds fantastic, and it was engineered by, or sorry, mastered by Scott Hall at Masterdisc in New York, who's done a million great jazz
Oh,
records and
wow.
worked with
That's
Steely
impressive.
Dan. Yeah, so I just sought out people that again, taking a lesson from guys like Jerry DeCicca, like really just, you want it to sound great, go for
Mm,
it. I spent some money, probably more than I should have, but I'm very, very happy with the result. It sounds awesome. I think the playing's great. I think the song, I'm proud of the songs. I think Phil's song is amazing. The bass player, Phil Spencer, our bass player, and Norm Bergeron, the drummer.
I got to hear this. Now, is this
Yeah.
going to be on a record label or is this going to be independently?
Yeah, well, it's independent. So again,
Okay.
hat tip to Carla Bley. I'm
I
doing
need
it
to
on
get a copy,
my little label. I will send you a copy.
please.
Yeah, yep. But the first single comes out digitally on May 8th, and then the record comes out on June 19th. So we'll be playing around Austin up until then.
I got to get your contact info because it's only through Howard. So I'll just ask him if you don't want to
Okay,
put it on
yeah,
the.
I've got your email, so I'll just
Oh,
shoot you
you
an
did a
email.
great. That would be
Yeah, yeah,
great. Well,
yeah.
Don, this has been a pleasure, and we can find all your music on your website, right? For this.
Yep, you can go to
Okay.
doncento.com, CENTO, or Cento30.com, and that's
Yeah. Okay.
CENTOTHREEO.com.
I'll buy a copy. I mean, come on. I don't want to
Oh
get it
man,
for free.
you're
You
too
know,
kind. I appreciate that.
well, I'm trying to give everybody a voice, and everybody's equal on these programs. I don't put anybody higher than anybody else. We're all human. We're all trying to do music,
That's right, man.
right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and I thank you for your service and your time and your interest in
Thank
everything.
you. Okay,
Very,
Don.
very
Well, we'll
cool.
talk about again sometime, hopefully, because I'm sure you'll have more stories in the future.
I'll try and brew up some more for you.
Okay, very good, Don. Thanks a lot now.
Bye bye.